How does one of the biggest white sharks in the world look? Why is it not worth approaching the tiger shark? Could the legendary megalodon come back to life? Now I'll tell you about that. In this episode, you'll see giant sharks captured on camera. We start from this curious clip where you can see many divers meet the largest existing species of sharks face to face. Just have a look at it, how big, powerful, and majestic this whale shark is compared to people. The length of this beauty is about 40 feet, however there are stories about 65-foot-long specimens. But don't worry, you don't have to transfer the characteristic features of these predators to the whale shark. It doesn't look like its brethren. In contrast to other sharks, the whale shark eats mainly plankton, filtering their food from the water with the help of a special filter formed by gill arches. Incidentally, this way of feeding only the whale shark has, as well as the megamouth shark and the basking shark. We'll talk about them later. This giant inhabits the warm waters, and you can come across it in all latitudes of the world ocean. The shark's body is gray or brown, with white spots located on its back and sides. Because of this unique coloration, it has a different name depending on the inhabited countries. In Madagascar, they call it multi-starred. In South America, domino. In Africa, father shilling, whereas on Java Island, starryback. However, the main indicator is, naturally, not its coloration, but the size. It was named the whale shark for. By any measure, the creature can weigh 20 tons. To feed such a huge body with plankton alone, the shark has to eat a lot. For this, Mother Nature endowed it with a bottomless maw with 15,000 teeth of up to 0.2 inches in length. This way, it filters up to 212,000 cubic feet of water each hour. Any living creature that are inside will not be able to get out of there. The thing is that this cunning fish has special grids on the gills, serving as a prison for plankton. Interestingly, you will obviously not be able to release on license. All the imprisoned will inevitably be rubbed off against the teeth. Needless to say that no other big sea inhabitants don't want such a sad end to their life. This is why nobody messes with the whale shark. It feels like a queen in the water and quietly swims at a speed of no more than 3 miles an hour to spare its energy. Megalodon. This is exactly what people who were on board cried out in the next video. People lost their tongue thinking that they became witness of a real prehistoric shark swimming next to them. So large and frightening was that giant. However, they should have not made panic in advance. People slightly exaggerated. The scientists were sure that it was the basking shark, the second largest one. The maximum registered length was a little bit less than 33 feet, whereas people talked about specimens that are 50 feet long, weighs about 4 tons. Bearing in mind that its body shape bears a close resemblance to the structure of the white shark, these 4 tons look even more evil than those 20 tons in the whale one. Alright, why do I pay so much attention to its dimensions when it's the bottomless maw that's considered a visiting card of the living megalodon? It's exactly for its huge mouth why the basking shark was named like this. Living creatures inhabiting close up die in hundreds of thousands each day in order to keep the giant fit. Plankton, fish, crustaceans, it doesn't care whom it will have for dinner this time. That's exactly why this giant shark does not close its mouth at all to spare energy at this moment. The basking shark eats with an open mouth in the very direct sense. On its opercles, it has a natural brush looking like a whalebone, so the minnows get stuck in it. Swimming with an open maw, the shark creates permanent flow and filters microscopic goodies from the ocean. In this video, a tiger shark lays its eye on a man. It wanted to check his nerves for strength and accurately, step for step, creeping up even nearer. Though the diver was scared deep inside, he knew that he had a strong and sharp weapon that would protect him in an extreme case. He surely held it in front of the shark to let her understand that it had better not attack him. It's exactly due to the experience why the shark altered its mind and decided not to attack the man. After all, in the contrary case, it could have freely paved its life for this mistake. By the way, concerning tiger sharks, these are rather dangerous creatures, inhabiting near to shores. Their main proudness is, of course, the jaw with the sharpest teeth. In shape, they resemble a sickle sharpened from the both sides, whose edges are scattered with hundreds of jags. This is an ideal weapon for killing and preparation. The upper part is only a little different from the lower one. That's why any prey is equal to sharks, even a turtle shell or some tin. This monster, whose weight reaches 1,300 pounds, grows up to 16 feet long and can develop a speed of up to 18 miles an hour. Truth be told, a shark requires such a strong acceleration in case of extreme necessity when it goes away from attack or attacks a tasty and delicious creature. The shark is called this way because of its coloration, though they say it received its name due to its special hunting style. Similar to a tiger, it's never in a hurry and attacks from the ambush only when it is 100% sure of its victory. It carries out a sharp jerk, whereas the victim is already breathless. It's especially often when the tiger shark assaults at night, which leads to the growth of successful attack percentages. However, the hunting style is not the only reason why the tiger shark likes hanging around at night. The thing is that it has a light reflecting layer. It gives the cells a second chance to catch photons of the visible light, due to which fish can see at night. Dance macabre. We continue the subject of the tiger shark, and let's look at such a tense video with a man performing the dance macabre. The shark swam towards divers, passed all the helpers, and turned to the boss, the same as in epic scenes. For sure, she thought that there would be something tasty in the cage, whereas a man in a suit faked it. He just wanted to say hello and dance a little bit. I don't know where divers found this expedition director who was not afraid of doing this with the most dangerous predator. He held up its nose, and even despite its attempt to bite, the diver avoided attacks and continued playing with it. As a result, the man released the shark and it didn't want to come back. That's the talk. You can see a real professional on the job. Deep blue. Have you ever heard this phrase? If not, you should learn that this is how the scientific world called the biggest whale shark female discovered by people. You won't do justice to say that it looks frightening. The shark was first met in 2014, not far from the Guadalupean Islands in Mexico. The shark was more than 19 feet long, weighing 2.5 tons. For you to understand, other biggest species representatives are usually not more than 16 feet, weighing a ton. In other words, deep blue is almost 2 times bigger than its largest brethren. Nobody knows how the shark managed to eat heartedly to these sizes. Moreover, this issue became the most important topic of discussion among the spectators on the internet. Some people proposed that it had eaten a group of people and a whole boat. That's why the shark increased in size to such an extent. However, the scientists don't think so. They consider that at the moment of filming, Deep Blue was a pregnant shark more than 50 years old. The scars on its body testified to its regular clashes during mating. Researchers also noted that this white shark has a big gaping hole in the right side. The predator was also covered with deep abrasions and lesions in the area of the spinal fin and tail. Shark tamer. When people go to the show and see the professionals performing different tricks with orcas, they look rather showy. However, everybody understands that the creatures are taught and easily manageable. And now imagine the same thing, but in the open with big white sharks. This means that it's not so calm, right? Anyway, Ocean Ramsey doesn't care. The girl has been swimming in the ocean waters with big predators and does not feel discomfort. Moreover, she likes it, and it knows predators by their names. The marine biologist, freediver, influencer, or just ocean plugs into the ocean in its hydrosuit, mask, and flippers, freely approaching a 20-foot-long shark, puts her hand on its back, and swims along in the vicinity, slightly holding a spinal fin of the predator. Spectators, without a doubt, like everything. However, scientists tried to save the girl and ask her to stop similar activity. The thing is that big white sharks are unruly predators that can lash out and attack a man, especially in wild conditions. Bearing in mind that the girl had nothing underhand and naturally no chances for rescue, Ramsey is realistic about it and calls out not to repeat its stunts. The graduated marine biologist has been studying sharks for more than 10 years, their behavior, body language, and the way they contact each other and avoid conflicts. The interaction experience with more than 30 species of these fish allowed her to learn to behave underwater the way sharks do not accept it as prey and threat. Megamouth shark. This is how a third kind of shark is called, feeding on plankton. We've already talked about the whale and basking sharks. This means we have to talk about the bronze holder in terms of dimensions. So it reaches not more than 20 feet long, whereas its maw is all scattered with small teeth. In principle, almost all people managed to find out about this shark for more than 40 years from the moment of its discovery. After all, by August of 2015, only 102 specimens of this species were found. It's known that the megamouth shark has a flabby body that does not allow it to pursue its prey. For this reason, the shark does not hunt but opens its mouth and devours whatever food. It can swallow everything, from krill to small fish. It has teeth, and there are many of them. However, the fish uses them exclusively as a filter, as well as whales. The megamouth shark seems to be the quietest and kindest, as it usually is. Beware of a quiet dog in still water. When it comes to mating, the megamouth shark gives free rein to all its secret fantasies. For example, the males can bite a female so that she doesn't swim away at an inopportune moment. Yes, it does not look like a romantic kiss. After such a bite, the shark finds it difficult to get around. Greenland shark. The next monster we're going to talk about is, though more studied, you can't bring yourself to say that it's less surprising. The Greenland shark, also known as the Gurry shark or gray shark, inhabits the waters of the North Atlantic. The area stretches to the north much longer than that of other sharks. It's oviviparous. These slow sharks feed on fish and carrion, whereas the biggest specimen people found reached approximately 21 feet in length. But take it from me, this is far not the most interesting from what scientists told about it. It turns out that the Greenland monster can weigh even more than a ton. The shark reaches such dimensions for 300 to 500 years. Interestingly, it's unbelievable to turn into a hardened predator covered by different wrinkles and pigment spots. But don't rush to discuss the appearance. Without any doubts, this appearance is frightening. But how does the fish manage to live so long? Turns out that there are many factors that influence this. Firstly, no one hunts the sharks in its waters. I'm not talking about people. Secondly, the Greenland shark has the slowest metabolism among other sharks. Not only about food, but also about aging. Let it swim no quicker than a speed of 1.2 miles per hour. On the other hand, it does perfectly well in the polar regions and unhurriedly develops gradually, increasing in size with each year. But however slow the metabolism may be, you have to look for another habitat when the temperature in the native water falls to 28 degrees Fahrenheit. One of them is trimethylamine oxide. The substance, with such a dreadful name, turns the shark's blood into antifreeze. What's more, if you believe scientists, this shark is a highly unusual hunter. It doesn't prevent parasites from settling on its eyes or other parts of its body. Fish rise to the bite, and as long as they try to devour this or that crustacean stuck to the shark, the Greenland record breaker swallows the enemy and continues its slow way without any worries. The mightiest prehistoric monsters of the planet, ancient hybrids of crocodile and fish, and giant ancient squids. Ahead awaits an encounter with the most terrifying sea creatures in history. Look at this picture. A huge whale with an equally huge and toothy mouth jumps on a ship and can easily sink it, or even swallow it whole.
Maybe. Maybe not.
This might well have happened if this creature had survived to this day, but fortunately for us, it's long extinct. The Leviathan melville, one of the most feared and dangerous sea creatures of all time. The whale lived on our planet 10 to 9 million years ago. Its life was short by the standards of history because there are no animals that existed for tens of millions of years. Nevertheless, it was enough for the whale to make history. To make it easier to understand, Leviathan is the same as the modern sperm whale, only much larger, more aggressive, and dangerous. These monsters grew up to 60 feet in length and weighed 50 tons. Their main tool was their teeth, huge teeth. They reached 16 inches in length. For comparison, this is twice as big as the teeth of modern sperm whales and about 8 times the size of the great white shark teeth. It's hard to imagine. Given all this, it's not surprising that Leviathan were at the top of the food chain. They easily preyed on marine mammals, including other large whales. Unlike its descendant, the sperm whale, Leviathan did not often dive into deep water and preferred to deal with its prey right at the surface of the water. By the way, it lived at the same time with Megalodon, and even such a super shark could hardly stand a chance against the bloodthirsty and terrifying whale. That's saying a lot. Leopleurodon. A long body, powerful flippers, and an oblong head, and a crocodile-like jaw studded with teeth. That's what Leopleurodon looked like, a monster that lived 160 to 155 million years ago. It looks like a hybrid between a crocodile and a dangerous predatory fish. In fact, it's not a hybrid at all, but a plesiosaur, a separate genus. However, it is indeed as if it took all the best from marine predators and crocodiles, becoming a ruthless machine for the extermination of all life. This is evidenced by the fact that Leopleurodon didn't hesitate to prey on even dinosaurs, and not the smallest ones at that. It waited for dinosaurs near the shore, sharply jumped out of the water, and dragged the lizard into its home. If there were no dinosaurs nearby, but Leopleurodon wanted to eat, it could eat fish, large cephalopods, or marine reptiles. At the same time, it was very difficult to catch it. This plesiosaur masterfully used its flippers and learned to swim away from danger to a great depth. By the way, it wasn't in the water all the time. It had to rise to the surface to take a breath, like modern whales. According to scientists, one breath was enough for it to stay underwater for about an hour. Dunkleosteus. The underwater world is scary. Even when we see fish that aren't the biggest, we can get scared, let alone sharks, which can make your heart skip a beat. But Dunkleosteus is a whole other level. It's a horror in the flesh. A creature that can scare to death just by its appearance and movements. It's also a very dangerous creature. Fortunately, we cannot encounter it because Dunkleosteus lived very long ago, about 400 million years ago. Many people believe that Dunkleosteus is something like a distant ancestor of sharks, but it's not so. The first shark-like creatures appeared before Dunkleosteus, about 450 million years ago. Besides, Dunkleosteus belongs to a different superorder. Dunkleosteus was quite large, but at the same time compact. You can't say that it was too long, but the strength of this monster was not in its size but in its special jaw. In the mouth of the animal there were not teeth but bone plates, and they did their job perfectly. The bite force of Dunkleosteus is more powerful than that of modern lions, hyenas, jaguars, and brown bears. Dunkleosteus bit its prey and then literally crushed it, not chewed it, so its hunting looked very brutal. In addition, there was another trick in its mouth. It didn't even destroy small prey, but simply sucked it in. The animal opened its mouth in an instant, thus creating special pressure. As a result, a powerful stream of water flew into the mouth of Dunkleosteus, along with various animals which had no chance to survive. Perhaps the next animal in the episode, Jackalopterus, were also the prey of this ruthless creature. However, they themselves were not harmless and not small at all. Jackalopterus is what you get if you hybridize a crab and a scorpion, throw it in the water, and rewind time 400 million years back. In fact, this animal is called a sea scorpion, and in some languages it's also called a crab scorpion. However, these animals were much larger than both modern scorpions and modern crabs. The length of some individuals reached 8.5 feet, and this is just what scientists managed to find. They have only fossils at their disposal and not so many at all. It's possible that these monsters were much larger. In any case, they're already considered one of the largest arthropods known to science. As for the battle between Jackalopterus and Dunkleosteus, I embellish here. In fact, Jackalopterus lived in fresh water, unlike Dunkleosteus. Still, it would have been cool to see this sea scorpion and the creature with hellish bony plates in a mouth fight. Jackalopterus itself had powerful claws, which it used to deal with its prey brutally. Apparently, this creepy arthropod hid in an ambush and then sharply attacked the prey, mercilessly destroying it with its claws. Camarasaurus. Many of you know about such a creature as the giant squid. It's a creepy cephalopod that lives at great depths. It's not dangerous to humans, but it can at least scare us with its size and creepy tentacles. But in prehistoric times, there was something scarier. Camarasaurus is a very ancient creature that lived 470 million years ago. scarier and more dangerous than all modern giant squids combined. Its oblong body ended in a head with tentacles. It looked like an alien monster, not a creature from our planet. This 33-foot-long squid ruled the world ocean for about 30 million years. This conclusion was reached by scientists who found that, judging by the size of the squid, it was a top predator. In the depths of the Camarasaurus tentacles, a powerful beak hid. Modern cephalopods also have such a beak. With its help, Camarasaurus mercilessly grinded the rather large inhabitants of its time to dust, including creepy trilobites and crustaceans. If Jackalopeus had lived several tens of millions of years earlier, this prehistoric kraken would have gladly eaten them, but it still preferred to hunt simple, plankton-like prey. Although the word hunt is an overstatement, scientists believe that the prehistoric cephalopods simply lay on the bottom and waited, and plankton often swam into its mouth itself. Tylosaurus. Probably many of you have heard of such a creature as Mosasaurus. They were prehistoric sea lizards, which at one time were the main threat to any marine life. But a mosasaur is not a specific animal, it's a whole family, and that's where Tylosaurus belonged to. These are the giant lizards of the Cretaceous period. They were so creepy, dangerous, and advanced that they could not be destroyed by anyone except the very asteroid that killed the dinosaurs and many other inhabitants of Earth. In its time, Tylosaurus was the largest mosasaur of the planet, as well as one of the largest creatures in general. It reached 50 feet in length and weighed more than 8 tons. It could deal with any creature, it could defeat anyone. And of course, it's not just about size. The mosasaur was a very good hunter, and that was its strength. Scientists believe that this lizard rammed the prey, stunned it, and then ruthlessly destroyed it with its long mouth and very sharp teeth. Sharks, fish, plesiosaurs, waterfowl, and even small mosasaurs. This killer preyed on everything. It's interesting, by the way, that modern scientists compare its hunting style with that of the Komodo dragon. I mean, like the huge monitor lizard, Tylosaurus could not chew the prey but just swallow it whole and alive, simultaneously breaking its bones during swallowing. You've seen a lot of dangerous and frightening prehistoric creatures today and checked out how they swam, fought, and lived, all thanks to animations, simulations, and artists' impression. But here we see real video and real pictures. How is that possible? Maybe this creature's not prehistoric? Yes and no. It's a frilled shark, and it's one of the creepiest fish of our time, and one of the creepiest fish of the dinosaurs' time too. The thing is, the frilled shark is what's called a living fossil. As a species, the shark is already 80 million years old, and in all that time it hasn't changed much. That's why it looks more like an eel or a sea snake than a shark. Currently, the frilled shark is still alive and well and is not going extinct at all. It's occupied its comfortable niche and does not disturb people. These monsters swim at a depth of almost 5,000 feet. This is good news for us because we will not encounter this shark while diving or at the resort. But scientists are not happy about it. Because of the deep-sea lifestyle of these sharks, it's very difficult for researchers to study them properly. But they do know a few things, as the frilled shark has been observed for over 100 years. For example, it's known that the jaws of the frilled shark are very stretchy and allow them to swallow whole prey half their own length. And they also hunt more like snakes rather than like common sharks. They bend their bodies and make a jerk on the principle of a spring. In addition, they're able to close the gill slits, creating a negative pressure inside the mouth cavity and thus suck the prey in. Numerous rows of small and needle-sharp teeth prevent the prey from escaping, so whoever's caught in the jaws is doomed. Stay tuned because further in the episode you'll see shark encounters that could very well be plots for horror movies. Sharks arouse genuine interest, mixed with a sense of unconscious fear in any person. More horror stories have been written about them than any other sea creature, and movies have played their part in it. But what's coming up today is far from being fragments from horror movies, it's real life. In this episode, you'll see crazy shark moments that you shouldn't watch alone. Let's go. Boating is a very relaxing, pleasant, and unusual activity. What can go wrong? After all, the boat's quite fast, there are no strong waves, and the weather is also wonderful. Meanwhile, trouble was waiting for people where no one was waiting for it. A shark magically jumped on board the boat. Moreover, it didn't just appear to people, it was stuck between the iron beams and couldn't get out. Because of this, the predatory creature mangled itself, trying to cope with the beams. Nevertheless, the shark couldn't get out until humans helped it. As scared as humans were, they still helped the predator get back into its native habitat. And what would you have done? Write in the comments. And again, it jumps up to people. Yes, as you've guessed, now I'll show you a video with a similar plot. A group of people were standing on their boat, fishing, when suddenly in the distance they saw a shark jumping out quite high above the water level. At first they thought it was funny, but after a couple of seconds, such skills of the shark led it straight to the people. The creature nearly knocked everyone there off their feet, but the guys managed to get up to safety. It's kind of unknown how exactly they dealt with the shark onwards, but personally, I can't even imagine how to help the shark in this case. It's very dangerous to push it with your hands, and using something handy means having a chance to damage the shark's fins. Caught the character of the movie Jaws. In 2020, a group of scientists went to the waters of the Northwest Atlantic to catch the largest white shark there. The people were very well prepared, and it bore fruit. A few hours passed, and the shark was already on board. Seeing its scars and size, the scientists decided that it was the grandmother of all sharks and the main instigator of matriarchy in the ocean. However, when you look at it, it's clear Jaws movies fooled us all a bit. There are simply no such big sharks as in the movie. Well, or they just haven't been recorded by scientists. Nevertheless, the found creature was more than 16 feet long and weighed about 3,500 pounds. That's not so bad either, especially if you compare it with the two previous guests of our episode. Imagine if a granny shark like this had jumped on board to them. Who's hiding here? That's what shark named Bullet must have thought, noticing some strange iron cage hiding three people from its tenacious jaws. The predatory creature tried as hard as it could to hack into people's security system and get at its prey, but it failed. I wonder if people's hearts were beating hard at that moment because of the experiences. In any case, after several attempts, Bullet decided to retreat and swarm off on its own, giving the humans a watchful and slightly displeased look because of the outcome. Being a diver is by no means an easy job. At the very least, you risk your life every time you dive to the bottom of the oceans and seas and take magical pictures there. Don't believe me? Well then, here's a real example. A group of underwater explorers encountered a whole group of sharks. The predators circled around, and the man descended closer to them to take mesmerizing pictures. Only in response to this decision, he received only the scariest kiss of his life, because the kiss was from a shark. In the process, the fish took off the diver's mask and, fortunately for the man, didn't want any more. Either it just frightened him or decided to play an unusual joke on him. You know, it'd be really cool if people knew how to put sharks and all other dangerous animals into a trance. It's a great way to reduce their aggression and stay unharmed. But wait a minute. Looks like someone already knows how to do it. Look at the way this guy behaved when he was confronted by a tiger shark. He first stroked it, then somehow touched its nose, its lower part, and with this action it looked as if he had tamed one of the most dangerous sharks in the whole world. It was exciting to watch, to say the least. The female hero. That's what I'd call this woman, since she fought off a shark with her bare hands. As I understand it, the girl had almost no experience with these predators before. This is the most ordinary tourist who wanted to dive in the water and take cool footage with her GoPro camera. And she definitely succeeded. Not only did she take some great footage, but she also had an unforgettable experience. Now the woman can tell her friends that she single-handedly chased away a large and dangerous shark with her bare hands, or rather with just one fist. Sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? Now that's what I call a real unusual screamer. Just imagine what it was like to see it with your own eyes. After all, the water there was muddy, one couldn't see anything, and then, just out of nowhere, bam, and a shark rapidly crashes into the cage with its jaws open. I'm watching this moment over and over again, and I'm as scared as the first time. You do realize that if it hadn't been for the fence, the shark would have just swallowed the human whole. Just look at the position of its jaws. It's horrible. Actually, I wouldn't call that video of the screamer in a cage scary. Yes, it's possible to lean back once because of a surprise, but people were in a cage and nothing bad could have happened. However, there's another situation in this episode that can really creep you out. A group of people were relaxing on some big boat, and one of their favorite things to do was to slide down a slide right into the sea. Here comes this girl's turn. She bravely sits down, slides down with joyful shouts, and in her mind, everything is wonderful. However, people who watched all this from the side realized what trouble the lady was in. She went down into the water where a dangerous shark was waiting for her. The men on the boat immediately began to shout and told her not to make any sudden moves. The video cut off at that moment when the girl made eye contact with the shark. As creepy as the story looks from the outside, don't worry, the girl's fine. The captain of the boat managed to chase away the predator and lift the girl back onto the boat. As she says herself, this story will stay in her memory forever, and all the stress she experienced is definitely worth the memories. Giant shark. I think it was with these two words that the people in the video first described this creature. No one knew how the shark got here and what it needed. Although the creature frightened all the tourists in the first moments, after a few minutes people realized that the shark had no evil intentions. This speculation turned out to be correct because the fish was a whale shark. The species, though very large, is not predatory, and so after a short period of time people were already swimming next to the shark, as if next to their old friend, having a cool time, taking pictures, and even stroking this amazing creature. That's what I call a man born with his shirt on. The diver was minding his own business in rather murky water. He was even looking in a different direction when literally, out of nowhere, a shark stroked the back of his head. Had the diver been a little taller or a little less bent over, who knows how this encounter could have ended? Maybe his head would have ended up right in the shark's jaws and, well, you get the idea. Nevertheless, I wish each of you to be as lucky as the guy from this video. But maybe sharks have an unusual way of greeting divers like this. Because here's another video of a predatory creature crashing right into a man's face. It looked like the shark deliberately wanted to do it. Either the shark wanted to scare him that way or kiss him? Either way, the man certainly wasn't ready for it, judging by his reaction. Are there many differences between river monsters and monsters of the ocean depths? Let's find it out. Pirarucu. Let's start with the fish, which is the true embodiment of all the biggest of the Amazon River. This South American inhabitant bears the title of the real king of the reservoirs because of its anomalous size. Pirarucu avoids fuss and prefers quiet and secluded areas. Because of this, it's not often found in the Amazon, because these fish prefer to live in the green swamps near the main river. And it's understandable. Why would the fish invent something and try to fall over backward, if thanks to its size no one can swallow it? By the way, here's an interesting fact. This fish is unique in the sense that its structure practically has not changed for more than 130 million years. And what else distinguishes it from the others is the way it breathes. It can both exist underwater and get air from the outside. For that, its pharynx and air bladder are covered with lung tissue. With its help, the fish can breathe air, including ordinary air, periodically sticking out and swallowing it with its wide mouth. This is the way the creature lives. As you can see, it can barely fit in the hands of 2 adult males at once. Adults can be up to 13 feet long and weigh over 440 pounds. Well, you can't hunt on Pirarucu by yourself. Bigfoot from Michigan. Sometimes people go boating on the river to go fishing at some point. Other times they just want to get to the opposite shore. And sometimes the reason for boating is a desire to relax and enjoy the views. The third option referred to the author of this video, who wanted to forget about the problems with the help of bubbling water in a calm environment. But he didn't seem to be able to do it, and no, it wasn't his fault. The fact is that the man encroached Bigfoot running on the water somewhere in the distance. Luckily, he managed to catch it on camera, and the video definitely caused a lot of controversy on the internet. The creature, completely covered with fur, about 6.5 feet tall or taller, was walking through deep water as if on the shore and holding something incomprehensible in its hands. The man was right to not make any sounds or signals. Who knows how this could have ended? Do you think it could have been a real Bigfoot? Or did the man post a fake video on the internet? Share your thoughts in the comments. And now I suggest we go back to real life and appreciate the very real creature that fishermen caught. He managed to pull out the so-called paraiba of the water. It's a rare and dangerous fish, which can reach size of 8.2 feet. Its weight's about 330 pounds. There are many rumors about this creature. Fishermen have seen much larger fish of this species. However, such cases have not been officially recorded. Don't be afraid. Despite such terrible size, frightening appearance, and power, the fish lives on the bottom and prefers to hunt on small fish or its young congeners. Interestingly, although paraiba is a fish eater, birds, snakes, and remains of monkeys and other forest mammals are found in its stomach when caught, giving rise to legends about paraiba hunting people. And you know, something even makes me believe in such a legend. Just look at the size of this fish. Even 3 men can barely hold it. Write in the comments, what do you think about this? Is such a creature really capable of swallowing a human? Or is it all nothing more than a thin story? Guest from Alaska. Our next guest came straight from cold Alaska. People still can't tell for sure who or what it is. The thing is, only the tip of the creature was caught on camera. No one dared dive into the water to satisfy their own interest. The story of its discovery is as follows. Alaska land supervisors noticed some movement in the Chena River, but wrote it off as huge blocks of ice rushing under water pressure. A little more time passed, and people changed their minds. They noticed signs of a living being in the movement of this object. It wriggled, changing direction and sinking slightly under the water, then returned back to the surface. Curiously, people had noticed something like this before, but for a long time, no one attached any importance to it. Now, scientists puzzle over what or who could it be. Some attribute the find to an ancient mystical creature. Others say it's the almighty frostworm, and the rest are still confident that it's the usual movement of ice, which changes its direction due to the versatile flow. What's your opinion? Strange creature. The creature I'm going to talk about, though, has appeared to people. It's not become less mysterious because of this at all. Fishermen in the province of Krabi, Thailand, caught this spider-like creature in the local river. It moved with the help of long limbs and had a black as tar color. At times, the creature lay still as if pretending to be dead, but as soon as people touched it with their stick, one could immediately notice its moving legs. Fishermen's friends are sure that the guy stumbled upon an unusual kind of starfish, which at the same time, he himself doesn't believe in such a theory. In his opinion, it's something still unknown to mankind. Chaser. And here's another unusual creature that ordinary people managed to catch on camera. But this time, no one fished it out, and it was probably for the best. Because the mysterious creature had enormous size and clearly chased a boat with people floating on this river. The funny thing is that the people didn't even pay attention to it during the filming. They were too much involved in getting emotions. But let's take a closer look at the video. Did you see that too? Take a closer look at the water. In the footage, you can see that the boat slows down, and at that time, something incomprehensible appears. Is it a ghost of some person, or a big fish, or some large object? As you understand, so far it's not been possible to find out the exact answer to these questions, and after a group of friends saw it on their phone, none of them expressed a desire to float on the river again, and they can be understood. Golden Dorado. Let's go back to the real creatures and check out the legendary catch of the fisherman in the following video. He managed to catch a golden dorado, a real trophy fish that's considered one of the must-do challenges for every self-respecting fisherman. The fish is a distant relative of the African tigerfish, but it doesn't have such a wide and rich in teeth mouth. Nevertheless, the golden dorado fully compensates for this with its hot-tempered and uncontrollable character. Fish of this species can be up to 3.2 feet long and weigh more than 55 pounds. Compared to the creatures we had in this episode, this is so far one of the best options for fishing alone. At the very least, an adult will be able to catch a golden dorado alone. You have to agree that this unusual color, as well as the difficulty in catching, are perfectly combined and make the fish literally a gold medal for fishing skills. It's very symbolic and beautiful. The catch of a lifetime. That's what the fishermen in the following video called what they caught on one beautiful day. In the Canadian Fraser River, people were able to catch a 348-pound sturgeon, and not just to catch, but also to film its spectacular jump over the water. On the footage, you can see how the hooked fish is trying to avoid death, wriggling with all its might. In the process, it even soars above the river level and is forever remembered by both men who caught it. All those who are worried about the fish, don't worry. The fishermen immediately released the creature as soon as the fishing process ended in success for them. It was kind of like a catch the biggest fish ever challenge, and they definitely pulled it off. I wonder how many other people would release such a large and rare fish. Something tells me not very many. And this Australian creature, on the other hand, is one that any reasonable fisherman would immediately let go back into the water. Why mess with such a disgusting creature which face resembles the villains from the Alien movie at all? And it would be fine if everything was limited only to a terrible muzzle, and it could be understood, but there's also the body of a snake. That's creepy. How does nature create something like that? On the other hand, why be surprised? It's Australia. They have all sorts of things in the desert and in the water. As the author of the video, who's also a fisherman, says, this 6-inch long fish with a body resembling that of a snake had a big toothy mouth but no eyes. The fish looked stunned but didn't move or wriggle. Who knows? Maybe this way the monster pretended and tried to lull the fisherman's vigilance, or something really happened to the creature. In any case, we won't know the exact answer. Maybe it's for the best. I wish everyone not to mess with such monsters at all. And now let's return to the monsters of our days. Ahead lie interesting and frightening moments of encountering sharks captured on camera. Strange picture. And we'll start with this strange photo that a subscriber shared with me. I don't know if it's all true or not, but at least his story sounded pretty convincing. He said that he was one of the members of a research team studying the underwater world. Their duties included keeping track of the wildlife in a particular area, and because of this they often dive to the bottom and keep an eye out for sharks and other sea creatures that they'd tagged years ago. So one day, a group of scientists found a shark that had no markings whatsoever. They thought that it had accidentally fell off, although this had never happened before, and decided to swim closer to it to correct this misunderstanding. But they were really surprised to notice this monster. The shark looked normal, but as soon as they swam up to it, they recognized it as a full-fledged sea demon or something equally horrible. Most likely, the scientists got a mutant, or as the less popular version says, a new shark species. Which do you believe? Write in the comments. Smile. However, do not think that only unusual sharks can be interesting. In fact, it's quite interesting to observe long-known species such as the sand tiger shark. It's worth starting with that retractable jaw right there, which looks like some kind of superhero costume with an awesome feature or something. You know, it's like an Iron Man mask that opens and closes on its own. There's probably a similar mechanism here. But it would be alright if the shark had only such a strange jaw, but it itself is a unique individual. In addition to its teeth, it can surprise us with its style of hunting, during which it simply hangs in the water and waits until the prey itself swims into its mouth. No one else is capable of this because the sand tiger shark has the ability to swallow air from the surface and store it in its stomach. In this way, it provides itself with neutral buoyancy. It no longer needs to move to keep itself in the water. Therefore, despite its size, the predator is perceived by others as nothing more than an obstacle. What can also be considered an obstacle is this inflatable boat on which people travel over sharks. One of them didn't like it so much that it decided to teach the people on board a lesson and clung to one of the sides of the transport. Those who are not familiar with swimming boats would have already passed out from panic, but there's really nothing to worry about. These boats have unique buoyancy, so there's no way the shark would have gotten to the humans, no matter how badly it wanted to. Caress with a predator. Many people know sharks as dangerous and uncompromising predators, ready to lash out at any moving target, no matter what it is. But in fact, this is nonsense, at least in half of the cases. Often sharks are perfectly sane sea creatures that do not want to harm people. If they're fed and treated properly, sharks can turn into the best pets, trusting humans fully and letting them pet and cuddle them. just like this diver did in the video. Would you like to be in his shoes? Would you want to pet a shark? It's okay to swim with a small shark, there's nothing dangerous about it, but some people have the courage to dive to the bottom with a great white shark, the one which is considered a real evil in the water, one of the largest in the world and at the same time one of the most dangerous. Many factors play a role in this. Firstly, the great white shark has a very powerful, streamlined body which allows it to easily overcome any obstacles. Two small olfactory furrows lead to the nose of the predator, which allows it to smell the slightest fluctuations in water and the smell of prey at a distance of several miles. But I'd still single out its teeth. Teeth of which there are about 300 in the jaws. They have serrations on the sides, allowing its owner to cut the prey quickly and deftly as with a saw. Moreover, all these razor-sharp teeth are located in several rows at once, so that no prey that's in its jaws cannot go unpunished. No wonder ancient people who were lucky enough to catch this predator took its teeth and made sharp and unique arrowheads out of them. An encounter to remember. A man decided to swim close to the shore. What could be dangerous about it? He just dives into the water and immediately comes out of it. Everything's good. But as soon as the guy jumped down, he immediately lost the power of speech and his hands became heavy, like stones. All this happened because a real large shark was literally a couple of meters away from him. This living monster began to circle around the man and probably think about how to eat him. But fortunately for the diver, the shore was close, and he instantly got out of it. The feeling of fear he was frozen with cannot be expressed in words, but you can feel it by this turn of the head and the area search. Did the shark catch up with him? Did it climb the stairs after him? It seems to me that it's after such cases that people forever abandon their favorite thing, which was diving from a height here. And you should understand that this was by no means the only and unique case of a shark and human encounter. Sometimes the situation's even more serious and dangerous, just like in this video. Here, people were engaged in more prepared and thorough diving in special uniforms. Suddenly, a great white shark swam towards one of them. The man barely avoided contact with it, managed to scare it, and got to the boat in one piece. It's scary to imagine how fast his heart was beating at that moment. Probably the whole life flashed before his eyes. The team immediately called on board the second diver, who was nearby, and got out of harm's way. Fortunately for them, the shark was not hungry, otherwise it would have eaten one of them right on the spot. Pig in a poke. You know, after watching those shark incidents, I finally decided that I definitely don't want to go scuba diving. Screw it. The maximum that I can do is dive to the bottom in an iron cage, and even that's what I call a pig in a poke. I mean, what if the shark gets too hungry, huh? It'll break and bend all those iron bars without much effort. What if the crew can't get me out of the water in time? In short, there are a lot of pitfalls here too, which make the process very dangerous. Nevertheless, it looks very exciting and interesting. Don't look back. That's exactly what I would confidently tell a person who's afraid of sharks and is on the same board with me, if there was a string of sharks following them. I'll be honest, this is the first time I've seen such a thing. I used to think that sharks were loners by nature, the very creatures that do not like to gather in groups and share the prey, but this case seems to be an exception. I wonder what could have attracted them so much. The extra lighting or the automatic feeding station at the back of the boat? I don't know. I came up with the latter on the fly, but I'd still like to get to the bottom of the real reason for this behavior. If you have an explanation for this phenomenon, share it in the comments. It's likely that what we saw in the last video was a marathon by the sharks, a marathon of gratitude for humans saving their relative in distress. There are quite a few human and shark encounters in history, but some still stand out. In this case, a group of professional divers from Italy went diving in the ocean near the Maldives. Near their boat, they saw a whale shark, but its body was wrapped in rope. The fish was unlikely to be able to free itself, so the Italians decided to come to its aid. They caught up with it, calmed it down a bit, and then removed the unwanted object from its large body. The fish was immensely grateful, as it would have been unrealistic for it to get rid of it on its own. Continuing the topic of rescue, I suggest we now look at other moments in the wild when animals ask for help from humans and help their congeners. This dog was stuck in some kind of cloth that served as a sunshade. A policeman saw this and couldn't stay away. He went to help the four-legged creature. The dog was twisting, turning, falling, and simply terrified. It seemed to the dog that it was stuck forever, and out of fear it moved more and more and pulled the knot tighter and tighter. But it was only necessary to wait, and so the trap was destroyed, and the dog immediately rushed to hug its rescuer. That's cute. Some get stuck more seriously. This cow, for example. The curious cow was exploring the tree, stuck its head between the trunks, and got trapped. Because of its body structure, it couldn't get out on its own. But luckily, people saw it, and together they rescued it from captivity. And here the situation was much more serious. The cow was stuck in a hollow tree. It was impossible for the cow to get out of there by itself. So the man had to go and get an axe and rescue the animal. The man very carefully chopped the tree to enlarge the hollow. The slightest mistake could hurt the cow, but the man did everything very carefully. Soon there was enough room, and the cow was free. This swan came to the Animal Rescue Center in poor condition. The bird could barely hold its head up and was completely exhausted. In the wild, it would not have lasted even a couple of days. The vets examined the swan and gave it an IV, and it wasn't long before the swan felt better. Soon, food and water were brought to it, and the bird literally pounced on the food. The bird was very hungry and very thirsty. After the meal, the bird felt even better. It was kept in the center in good condition. For a while longer, the bird lived in a spacious enclosure with a swimming pool, and soon, already healthy and stronger, it was released into the wild. Train drivers have to look carefully at the railroad tracks because not only can a large animal be on the tracks, but also a small creature. This train driver, by some miracle, managed to see a tortoise on the ties and braked right in front of it. It was impossible to leave the animal there or simply move it aside. There was a precipice below. The train driver made the right decision and took the reptile with him to drop it off at some station later. And this is a sea turtle, and it too was in a bad situation. It had a plastic fork stuck in its nose. It was showing people that it needed help, and it got it. The specialists carefully pulled the object out of its nose. Look at how long the fork was. How'd the turtle even live with it? It must have been very uncomfortable. But the important thing is that everything was resolved, and this footage was another proof of how much plastic in the wild harms animals. A resident of Thailand was driving along a busy highway when he suddenly found someone on the road. That someone was a little kitten. Apparently, the baby was running across the road, but in the middle of the road, it realized that it was an unrealistic task and just lay down, hoping to wait out the flow of traffic. But that doesn't happen on the highway. The traffic there is constant. Luckily for the kitty, the brave man jumped out onto the road and quickly rescued it. The furball quickly settled into the car and felt much better. And this wolf is already an old friend to the author of the video. They often see each other. The guy who's shooting the video comes here to help the predator with food. He brings him food, and every time Akela, as the author of the video called the wolf, waits for some goodies. This time a large piece of bacon is on the menu. Akela devoured the bacon in no time and wanted more. But that's it for today. Maybe he was right. Otherwise, the wolf would walk all over the guy and demand more and more food. The author of the following video was driving along the road and saw little ducklings. They were walking along the road, and their mother duck was standing nearby in a thicket. Apparently, the ducklings accidentally fell off the curb and were looking for a place where they could climb up. They still have little strength and cannot climb to such a height on their own. There was a risk that the ducklings would get hit by some car, so the author of the video helped them together with his friend. Together, they lifted the ducklings to the curb, and the ducklings ran to their mother. A resident of the house called a lifeguard. A pigeon was flying near the house and got its beak stuck between the wall and the roof. Poor creature couldn't pull its beak out on its own, so the rescuer had to climb up high to help it out. He carefully got the bird out and lowered it down. There, the pigeon had its nose cleaned a bit. Pigeon was then taken to an animal rescue center, but rest assured, the bird is fine. It's recovered. Is this man a real hero? No ladder, no equipment, just strong arms, strong legs, and a slippery pole that he climbed to the top. After all, that was where the pigeon was. The feathered creature had caught on something, got stuck and couldn't fly away. Had it not been for this super climber, the pigeon would have stayed there forever. But all ended well, and soon the bird was flying again. Once again, we have an animal that got stuck. This time it was a crow. It's not for nothing that these birds are often called curious. They keep poking their nose in everything, or their beak to be more precise. As you can see, sometimes this can end badly. The bird was stuck in the fence and didn't understand exactly how to get free. Its congeners that flew above it couldn't help it in any way, so there was only hope for the man. He solved the problem, and the bird was free. This lion is painful to look at. The king of the jungle is thin. It looks like a bag of bones and mane. It's all very apathetic, and its eyes are dull. The big cat should not be left in trouble. The woman dragged it and tried to feed it, but the predator raptor had no appetite. But at least it drank, and it already felt a little better. But that's not enough. For the lion to get back on its feet, they need more serious help. So people decided to take it to specialists who will cure and fatten the king of the jungle. The author of this video is a vet. He was walking on the beach and found a seahorse in the sand. The poor creature had been washed out by the wave. It was trapped and couldn't get back. It was lucky to be spotted by the man that day. In turn, the man was lucky to see something else. The seahorse was pregnant, and as soon as it was in the water, it immediately gave birth to several babies. If you didn't see how it was, then it happened something like this. Seahorses sort of shoot with their young. You have to admit that it looks unusual. What's even more unusual is that males give birth. It's they which carry the fry, and it's they which are fertilized by a female, throwing the eggs into their special pocket. They say sink or swim, but not when you're a hedgehog. You can't do without help here. It's good that this hedgehog was spotted in time. Although hedgehogs can swim, they've not yet learned how to get out of such pools on their own. And here's another hedgehog. This spiny creature is very curious. The hedgehog was looking for something in a tin can and accidentally got stuck in it. The quills prevented it from getting back out. The man had to gently pull the baby out so it wouldn't get hurt. The rescue was successful. In 2005, an ornithologist woman named Jane found a female bald eagle named Beauty. The eagle had a deformed beak, which seemed to be the result of poachers' actions. It was decided to take Beauty for treatment and rehabilitation because in the wild, the bird of prey wouldn't last long with such a feature. But what to do with the beak? It's impossible to grow a new one. That's right, but it is possible to replace it with an artificial beak. Vets and scientists made a special beak for the bald eagle using a 3D printer. It was attached with a metal pin, and now Beauty is as good as new. She could feed herself and live a full life. But the vets didn't want to release her back into the wild. They decided to be cautious and not risk it, because with such prosthesis, the bird of prey will have a hard time in the cruel world of animals. Large, heavy draft horses are incredibly strong. They can carry huge loads and work hard for hours on end. Sometimes even such powerful creatures need help. Despite its strength, this horse couldn't get out of the muddy ditch by itself. It had to be pulled out by a crane because the horse weighed about a ton. The horse was lifted up and soon got back on its feet. The rescuers also decided to wash the horse to make it feel even better. Once again, we have a trapped one. This time, the victim of the trap was a deer. Apparently, the animal wanted to play soccer and try itself as a goalkeeper, but during the save, it fell and got stuck in the net. Joking aside, the deer was stuck pretty tight. It couldn't get out on its own, so the police had to come help. The deer was twitching at first because it was afraid, but then it realized they were helping it, relaxed, and was released. I think the goalkeeper position is not for the deer. Look how quickly it ran away. That deer is rather a winger. Looks like deer like soccer more than we thought. Here's another novice soccer player that found itself in the exact same situation. The deer's head was stuck in the net, and because it was twitching, it only made it worse by fastening and tangling knots. The man had to work hard to help the animal get free. And fortunately, everything ended perfectly. Minnie to the rescue. Cats are insanely gentle creatures that will never let anyone hurt their beloved ones and at the same time bestow upon them all affection and necessary care. A cat named Minnie in this video is no exception. Even in the middle of the night, the pet was awake and sensed danger approaching. Minnie decided to warn her owner, and so the cat came over to his bed and started stomping on it, licking it, and generally trying to get his attention as much as possible. Probably only the most balanced and calm person on Earth would not have reacted to this behavior. The owner decided to get up and go see what had happened. Maybe Minnie was thirsty. It turned out to be much more serious than that. Almost the entire bathroom was flooded. Someone had forgotten to turn the water off before they went to bed, and if not for the cat, they could have flooded the neighbors and caused a lot of damage. I think this is a perfect example of how to respond to cat signs. Even if often they mean nothing, we have little to lose from it. These furballs can care about us just as much as we care about them. A pigeon with an award. It's no secret that in the past, people often used pigeons to send important messages. Personally, it seemed to me that birds could do it because they have no choice. But as practice shows, there are unique cases in history. Cher Ami was trained for the operation by British pigeon breeders and assigned to the U.S. Signal Corps in France. In October 1918, during the Battle of Meuse-Argonne, he saved an entire battalion. On October 3rd, more than 500 men, led by Major Charles Whitsley, were trapped behind enemy lines. The Germans surrounded them in the woods, depriving them of communication. The Americans decided to occupy the hill and defend it. If they only knew what losses that would entail. Within a few days of such protection, the number of soldiers was reduced to 180 people. Realizing that something urgently needed to be done, the major sent out a carrier pigeon with a message of help. Ironically, the bird was spotted by enemy snipers who skillfully shot his wing. But sometimes even that may not be enough to break the will of the feathered creature. Cher Ami proved so responsible and dedicated that he continued his flight in spite of the pain. He flew 25 miles to division headquarters in 25 minutes and saved the lives of all the trapped Americans. After the end of the war, the pigeon was awarded the French War Cross and the American Peace Medal of Bravery. And everything was done so that he could return to his former peaceful and carefree life. Parrot the Rescuer. For many people, parrots are incapable of doing anything but squirming and repeating bad words to piss off their owner. You know, for the most part, that may be true, but the feathered one in the following story clearly stands out. This parrot was sitting in its cage, going about its usual business, when suddenly it smelled something strange. It got out and looked into the laundry room. Its eyes rolled in fright, and it immediately headed for its owners. The feathered creature began to shout as much as it could to attract their attention in every possible way. Eventually, the man followed his beloved feathered creature, peeked into the laundry room for the sake of interest, and realized something was on fire in their home. The couple immediately called the fire brigade, who arrived quickly, but they were unable to extinguish the flame while it was small. It took part of the laundry room with it, and even a little more, but the people should thank their parrot that the fire didn't burn their whole house down that day. A dog is man's best friend, and once again, I'm convinced of that. The following story tells us about a very young girl named Aurora. She was 3 years old and her faithful dog Max was 17 years old at the time. It's unknown either he was sent for a walk with the girl or she was with him, but the couple left the house at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon and never returned. The parents were worried after only an hour because it was raining and their favorite child only came out in a short t-shirt and shorts. Unfortunately, the rain played a cruel joke on them, covered all traces, and they couldn't find the dog and the girl. The couple called everyone they could to help and searched the area all night. Unfortunately, all to no avail. Nevertheless, neither parent could afford to despair. Hope lived until that last moment, and, like in a fairy tale, the silhouette of a dog appeared before the woman. She thought she was imagining it, but no, it really was Max. He called the woman after him and took her to her beloved daughter. Judging by the smell, Aurora had been lying somewhere on the hill all this time, hugging the dog. The dog didn't leave the baby's side, and as soon as the girl fell asleep, the dog took advantage of the moment and informed the parents about their daughter. It's important to note that Max was a half-blind and deaf dog, relying only on his inner feelings and sense of duty. That's all, guys. Which story touched you the most? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you later.